All right then, gamers. We've got some patch notes here, and got good news for the Mirage mains. You've got a stay of execution. Some of the changes have been reversed. You have survived. We've got Lunar New Year. You can be a scaly now by doing the meta event. Very exciting. Very good. Or the meta achievement. Enjoy that. Become a dragon head there. You got new Wizards Vault stuff as well to go along with the festival. That's not important though, because the real changes, check this out. They added the Guildhall stuff. GVG is saved. Official GVG has arrived, my friends. So basically what they've done here, they've added a new NPC. You can change your team anytime, so you can use the entire arena for PvP, basically. And you can change the game mode. What an absolutely massive change there. Really, really cool. And I think it will be really interesting to see like how the GVG community actually evolves around that, like with like custom arenas. They can use any map they want, any part of the map, to have some really interesting terrain. I think they'll probably go for the standard really flat area and run into each other. That is the, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think there could be some really cool stuff there with some kind of player-created content there as well. I don't know if the instancing issues have been fixed. They almost certainly haven't, so that's still going to need some work, but I actually really like this. This is a really nice change that got added to the game alongside all of this. But we've also got some more balance changes as well, because we already went over the last balance patch in a previous video, but this time they have actually changed some stuff from the preview to the actual release, which I think is actually pretty cool stuff. This one is actually important, by the way. Relic of Resistance. It triggers on heal skill, but they modified it. It was going to go AoE, right? Or rather, it is AoE, right? But now it's only on you. This is actually a world versus world change to prevent Heal Chronomancer from being very, very OP. Basically, Heal Chrono, very good in world versus world right now after the rework with all the Chaos changes, the Chaos armor changes and stuff like that. Real good. AoE resistance on Heal Mantra would have been somewhat questionable. And that is now not going to be the case. The only place this actually does feel pretty bad is actually in Harvest Temple Challenge mode, because AoE resistance there was really good. You don't have that anymore. Unlucky, buddy. It's over for you. It's GG. Have fun. But yeah. But that's how it goes. The other nerfs have mostly come through here. Pretty much. With the Caracosa stuff, again, getting nerfed down a little bit. So many builds in PvE and World vs. World, very, very strong with that. Same with the Flock Rogues and all the Reoaks. This stuff has basically stayed the same. It's cool to see some interesting little buffs. I don't think it changes too much overall, I think. With a lot of these, I think there's some potential with Relic of the Weaver, apparently. There's going to be some experimentation with this thing going on there as well. But Caracosa is still going to be good. It just makes it a little bit close to some of the other alternatives as well. And Flock, essentially kind of getting nerfed here a little bit as well. Again, just bringing the power level down a little bit. Elementalist changes, these are exactly as they were. And I do like the communication here, by the way. They talk about this a little bit. Essentially, they're marking any different changes. So if it says January 30 balance update preview, this is exactly how it was. And if we scroll down here, we got some new changes. Oh yeah, unlucky dragon hunters. You've been nerfed in PvP. Have fun. Dude, so many poor new players. During the PvP rush, Dragon Hunter was feasting. Goodness me. Such a brutal build for new players to deal with, and oh boy, they got absolutely demolished by Dragon Hunter. Definitely a huge noob stomper build. Really big noob stomper build here as well. But anyway, Ellie nerfs just went through. Honestly, not the end of the world. Like, Condi Ellie was doing a lot of damage, right, with the hammer, and now it's going to do a little bit less damage. However, are we going to survive? You'll be fine, trust me. The MG stuff is actually pretty cool here as well. Look at this brand new talent, Ex Machina. You get 2 little gyros, and you get barrier, and you have a higher base recharge on your gyro, but you can AoE res basically all the time without a penalty. Really interesting trait there, actually. Going to be kind of a world versus world PvP thing, because again, in PvE, you're going to be a little bit locked. You know, you're going to want to take the quickness trait instead, but it is what it is. Power Scrapper nerfs. People are going to cry about this. They're wrong. Power Scrapper was broken. Now it's slightly less broken. Still an amazing build. Bulwark Gyro, pulsing out barrier here as well. Probably a slightly more usable ability overall. It's a good amount of barrier as well, by the way. Look at that. Juicy barrier there. Very, very nice as well. So yeah, I think you'll see this kind of popping up on your support builds a lot, because in general, AoE pulsing barrier is always good, especially because when you slap some healing power on, it's going to be pretty damn high there as well. That's the stuff for NG. But again, I'm not going to go over this stuff too much. If you want to hear my thoughts on this stuff, you can go back and you can watch the other video, okay? You know, I'm double dipping on your viewership right now, but these are fairly straightforward changes. But let's talk about the new stuff here for Guardian. So the Dragon Hunter nerfs. This build got nerfed because it's very good at beating up new people, okay? Like, that is why. And balance changes like that are important, actually. Like, if a build is overperforming at a different skill level than top level, that is a reason to nerf it, right? Like, is Dragon Hunter played at very high level? No, it isn't. But is it really problematic for newer players to deal with? Absolutely, yeah. And that actually is a decent justification to nerf it, right? Like, because when you're doing balance, you ideally want stuff to be balanced at as many levels as possible, right? And that definitely includes entry level. You could even argue that entry level balance is one of the most important, if not the most important areas of the game to balance, because if new players join and they're getting absolutely deleted by a build that's quite tricky to play against, then they aren't going to stick around for very long. And yeah, I'm sure if you played any PvP during PvP Rush, you will have seen Dragon Hunters devouring all of the new players whole and taking their yeah, and you know, ending them. It's that's how it is. Some other stuff here for Guardian. Zealot's Fire. This basically got changed into a charge ability now with Radiant Fire, Zealot's Flame. Now you can just double use it. This does mean that the count recharge is going to have to go around twice to get both charges back. And I think this is actually a change with pistol in mind, by the way. Like, you would go on torch, use your charges, go to pistol, use it again. That was kind of hinted at in my chat, by the way, actually, by Trig, in fact. So this is kind of thinking about, that's kind of interesting that that's what they're thinking about. It's kind of thinking about how pistol's going to go on the Guardian in the offhand there. Right now, of course, they tried to compensate for the fact that you don't double cast and kind of generate an extra Radiant Fire, Zealot's Flame with the proc by increasing the base burning duration by 50%. So again, that will scale all the way up to 300% when you're at max burn duration, right? Because it goes to from 100% base, 150, then 100% burn duration, up to 300% of the original duration. So that's the goal, is to compensate for that. But yeah, there you go. Enjoy. It's now, you got your rework. I think people have been telling me it's slightly less damage. I'm not gonna lie, that the nerds probably crunched it. It should be about the same, maybe a little bit. I don't know, because the base duration is going to help out there. But hey, maybe if it's a little bit lower, pistol will come in and save the day. Enjoy with that stuff. But that's how it actually is panned out now that we know the numbers. Some Firebranch buffs to PvP. I don't think this helps at all, to be honest. I think Firebrand is still just going to be a complete free kill most of the time. I don't know. Maybe there's some potential here, and there's going to be this kind of roaming Firebrand that doesn't team fight as much. That would be like where it would have some potential, I think, compared to the... You need like an anchor in a team fight. You need to be a brick wall. I don't think this really helps at all, to be honest. It's just going to be so squishy and just get free farmed. But we'll see. And some Firebrand buffs that were intended for PvP also are paid off in other game modes too, because now Azure Sun, the third skill, has a guaranteed heal on it as well, which is really nice for PvE and for World vs. World. And also Igniting Burst being a blast finisher is super nice in both PvE and of course in other game modes too. You can blast Might in PvE. You can blast your water field really easily too. You can like double do it with staff and 2 here as well, so you can do like water field, then go to the first time and blast that as well. Really cool interaction. I like this change a lot actually for Firebrand. That is also really, really cool. And yeah, I was talking about Firebrand being kind of like a roaming style support because of Merciful Intervention with this. Oh, Payne is saying that it's tanky as fuck now. I mean, maybe? I don't know. Maybe I'm just unhinged. Maybe the extra healing here is high value, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Honestly, I hope so. Like, we've been playing with Core Guard for like 50,000 years. So it's about time that Firebrand comes back into play. So who knows? Mesmer, the big stuff here is that Mirage basically got unnerfed in PvE specifically. So you keep your extra expertise on character persistence, and the nerf to imaginary axes got unnerfed significantly. A lot of the other stuff went through, so you've got your lingering thoughts, world finishes going down, some of the clone condition durations also going down across the board here as well. But the big news is Mirage DPS didn't get nerfed nearly as hard. I think someone was benching around 44,000 after the patch, so definitely very good. It's one of those builds that is a bit problematic though, right? Because it's kind of, there's a lot of high DPS, low utility builds that nobody really plays, because everybody basically plays the very easy, very tanky, very high value builds. I think a big problem here is something that can't be fixed with just balance. Because if you play Mirage well, you will actually do really well on it. It's a bit of a wonky build. Is it good everywhere? Definitely no. Is it fairly niche? Yes. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily a problem. And it's maybe not one that can be solved super easily with just balance. At the end of the day, encounter design, I think, is more important here. Like, high DPS, low utility builds will always be bad unless there are any fights in the game that require high DPS. Right? That's just a reality. And as a result of that, that isn't the case. So it kind of doesn't really matter how much you buff some of this stuff unless the damage is way higher than the other builds. It's just not really going to see a lot of play. Like, because there's loads of builds like this. You got your Deadeyes, you got Mirage. Hell, even some Elementalist builds are relatively unpopular for this reason, right? Is that glass cannon builds just don't have an encounter that's good for them, right? Like, the way Guild Wars 2 PvE is with very low DPS checks, very low healing checks, and, you know, just very burst sensitive as well, right? In general, glass cannons are just not, they're just not that relevant outside of speedrunning, right? And that's where you will see stuff like Mirage pop up, right? That's where you will see these hyper-aggressive builds pop up. Like, you know, your quickness berserkers and so on, right? And hell, even DPS berserkers, like these kind of more aggressive builds. That's where it is. But in Pugs, you're always going to see Virtuoso, you're always going to see Scourge, you're going to see your Heralds, right? And stuff like that. Because those are the builds that work really well. Indeed. It's good stuff. But yeah, some of the other stuff went through, some buffs to support Mesmer. I mean, it's a bit of a menace in World versus World. It's very interesting alongside Scourge support as well. So that'll be fun to keep an eye on there as well. You know, that's kind of the disadvantage of bringing other support builds up. You know, you don't have to worry about just Guardian now in World versus World being really, really good. Now you've also got to worry about heal Mesmer and heal Scourge as well. So that's going to be fun stuff. But hey, you know, this is cool. And some good quality of life for Heal Mesmer in PvE as well. Definitely a build that... I don't think that Heal Mesmer is too weak, actually. It's mostly that stuff like Heal Druid and Heal Scourge are too good in PvE. It's... you know, everything about Heal Chrono looks good, but then you just compare it to, like, the really, really good builds, and you go, like, oh, yeah, okay, this is way weaker. That's probably something that needs to be tuned in the future. And to be honest, something like Scourge kind of needs to get reworked. To be honest, it's a serious job to actually sit down and figure out how do we make Heal Scourge into a healthy build for the game? Like, how do we actually go about doing that? It's non-trivial because of how good Barrier is and just how good Reviving is, obviously. And that could also be an encounter design thing as well. It's possible to make encounters where Heal Scourge isn't good. But of course, the problem with talking about encounter design to fix balance issues is that you can't do that retroactively, right? You have to retroactively go back and change the balance of encounters, which... that's not going to happen, right? Like, there's absolutely no way. But some good quality of life here. Mantra of Recovery and Resolve Radii going up. Mantra Distraction doesn't need a target. Mantra of Pain doesn't need a target as well. So you can use these to basically get rid of the charges to recharge them more efficiently now. And Restorative Mantras heals when you use ammo. So again, you have kind of like snappier, more on-demand healing, as opposed to having to rechannel it to generate that effect there as well. They tried to nerf Chrono a little bit in World versus World. The Resistance Relic nerf is obviously going to help with this as well, now that it's not AoE, especially on heal skill. That would have been pretty disgusting. So that's the good news there, I guess. And some kind of toning down the alacrity uptime in World versus World as well to try and prevent that from being crazy. I think people are still going to be grumbling about Chaos Aura, though. A fair bit. World versus World nerf for Scourge. You know, I actually spoke to Roy, and he doesn't expect... he still thinks Heal Scourge is going to be good. I trust Roy. Roy knows what he's talking about. So, yeah, I mean, 60-second cooldown. Turns out Barrier, Corrupt, Mega Condi Cleanse. It's pretty good. Pretty good in World versus World. It's a very efficient package. And that's kind of the story of World versus World right now, is that some builds are getting really good roll compression. Like Chronomancer getting really good roll compression with having all of that utility and now having a really rock-solid support roll with really good stability access. And then, of course, Necromancer now having kind of the support and also the boon control package in one is like super efficient to have that as well, with what it can deliver there as well to the group. Whoa! Lingering Magic, an issue that causes trait to grant pets more boon duration than intended? That's actually insane, right? That's actually crazy. I didn't even know this was bugged, but there you go. Now we do. Now we do know that it's actually bugged. Some great draw buffs to Ranger there as well. It's actually really cool to see overall. But yeah, I mean, it's nice. Greatsword's going to do a lot more damage now on your Ranger in PvE, so go whack stuff with that. And this is just part of the fact they want all the weapons to be pretty good. Like, on a lot of power Ranger builds, you've been using the same weapons for a very, very long time now. You got your axes, you got your longbow. I think it's kind of cool, actually, kind of bringing the greatsword in there. I think, like, a greatsword axe Ranger could be really, really cool, actually. Have to see what the nerds make of these numbers. See how strong they're going to be, but I imagine it will definitely be a significantly more viable option now if you want to play with Greatsword to get that damage going there as well. I feel like Maul should do more damage, though. 2.0 coefficient on Maul? Come on, man. Like, that should be like a mega ability, but 2.0, that's just sad. We need like, to like 10.0. Nah, maybe a little bit more, who knows. As well. The Revenant stuff is exactly the same. Just some mild nerf to Power Vindy. Power Vindy is still going to be really good in PvE. It's a very, very good ability. Very, very good build, rather. So don't worry about that. It's not that important. Still really good. The big one, I would say, actually, here is actually Echoing Eruption. Only 1 blast finisher instead of 3. I think this is kind of a world versus world targeted change more than anything else because of its interaction with Relic of Caracosa. Because, you know, you proc that like 3 times essentially. That's like a massive AoE heal on a very, very short cooldown on this ability. So yeah, that's good. In general, there's some pretty insane support builds for world versus world, but yeah, this hasn't been changed. It is exactly as it was indeed. And yeah, this applies Torment. 3 stacks of Torment now as well. I think that's actually really funny. That might end up being a DPS increase on Condi Rev builds. Have fun with that. You're going to teleport behind the boss now. Unlucky. That's unfortunate. Not a fun skill to use rotationally. I think this is one of the key things that it's why builds like Mirage are kind of unpopular too. Is any build with like forced dodges or forced movement is just absolutely brutal, right? Like people do not want to play that, especially when there are really good builds that don't require that. You have to have like such an insane payoff for forced movement. I feel like because it's really annoying to play around, to be honest there. But yeah, Frigibus into the Sab of the Flamethrower. Have fun with that. That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun content right there. Finally to Thief, Deadeye has actually been doing really well in PvP right now. So a couple of nerfs here to make it a little bit less slippery and do a little bit less damage overall. And Thief is just a really tricky one, especially when it comes to PvP. It's kind of it's a special thing that only Thief can really do. It doesn't really have a competitor. So you're pretty much always going to see a Thief pop up most of the time, to be honest. In PvP. But yeah, Deadeye, it's, you know, it'll be there, lurking in the shadows. But look, it's either going to be Deadeye, or it's going to be Spectre, or it's going to be Daredevil. Just pick your poison, guys, okay? Whichever Thief spec you hate the least, okay? At least one of them is going to be around, so we're going to have to live with one of them in PvP, like, almost certainly, realistically. So have fun with that one. But yeah, Deadeye probably is the most annoying to play against, to be honest. So, you know, if it's not Deadeye, I don't think people are going to be too bummed out about that, to be honest. And yeah, the Thief mains, they'll just do whatever. Like, they got no morals. You can't trust them. They'll do the most degenerate build possible to win in that game mode. So that's good. And finally for Warrior, just some very mild number shuffling here. Like, we talked about this in the previous video, but very insubstantial changes, to be honest. Like, very slight tweaks. Slightly less damage on both builds, actually, the full DPS build and the quickness build, but the quickness build obviously gets hit a little bit, so there's more of a trade-off, right? Basically, blood reaction, which competes with the quickness trait, is better now. So if you go full DPS, you get you get this trait, which gives you more damage, compared to the quickness trait, which of course will now lose you a significant amount of DPS. And then Bloody Roar, which was on both builds, got nerfed. So in other words, the quickness build gets nerfed because of Bloody Roar, and the full DPS build is buffed because of blood reaction. And the goal there is to create the greater trade-off. Both builds still hit really, really hard, though. And again, they're fairly low utility, so that kind of makes sense. They're tanky, though. Like, Berserker is actually pretty tanky. It's very durable. And has one of the best heal skills in the game, which is really nice, and some good CC. But yeah, it will still be a build that is probably relatively niche, especially in Pugs, because at the end of the day, like, Herald exists, and Herald is very, very good. It's very good at carrying your team. But yeah, it's definitely a good build if you play it well. You can seriously pump on this. Like, this is where you flex on people and give like full 20, you know, you give full quickness and also out DPS everyone in the group at the same time. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, That's the deal there with Warrior. Nothing really going on there. The numbers are just shuffling around a little bit. And that is the patch. I have now talked about it. Enjoy. Enjoy. Some good communication. GVG is saved. We love to see it. It's fantastic. And you can be a Scaly. I mean, what more do you want? Let me know what you think, guys, of the patch. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Fantastic stuff. And yeah, leave your comments. Subscribe. Zero to Hero coming soon. Yeah, I'm just going to overtly say it in this one. Prepare yourself for Season 3. The finale! Ha 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 ha! Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, gamers. I'll see you next time.